Hey, and welcome back to another episode. Today, I am doing a little solo episode because I've been asked a few times, what do I need to do in between therapy? And also, there's a ton of reasons for this episode. I'm going to just be frank. I love therapy. It's literally saved my life. And also, it is a space that I hold for clients 4 to 5 days out of the week. And I love this work, but I want to share, let's call it 7 habits of how to actually supercharge your healing and make therapy worth it for you. I will say that therapy is beneficial, but the real transformation actually happens when you're not in isolation and when you're not trying to do things alone. But within the therapy setting, the work really happens between the sessions. And what that means is that what you're doing and how you're practicing what we've talked about in session, or what habits you have, are going to impact your healing process, positive or negative, really. And oftentimes I will say it's absolutely your choice. Therapists are there to support you through it, but we can't force you to do the work. So let's talk about the 7 habits to actually make your therapy sessions more effective and your emotions steadier, as well as help your healing journey actually become, dare I say, easier. I'm going to put that in air quotes, or at least faster in the process. So, and please know that this episode isn't for everyone. There are bigger diagnoses, and there are times that even these parts of the process, if you're doing this work in between sessions and if it is still not sticking, there could be many reasons why that's not happening. So I'm going to just put a little asterisk in this session that if you're doing all of these things and it's not quite working, please reach out for therapists in your area. Psychology Today is a great resource. Hello Alma is another great resource. There's a ton of resources out there to access a therapist, and talk therapy is amazing. Therapists have many modalities to support you through. Sometimes it might not be the fix that you need at that time, and so there are psychologists and nurse practitioners that actually prescribe medications. There are psychiatric hospitals to help and support you through if you're having thoughts of harming yourself or others. And 988, if you live in the United States, is an amazing resource if you're having intrusive thoughts and a plan to harm yourself. Please reach out for help. There is no need for you to do that alone. And you are absolutely worth getting the support and the help that you need and deserve. And there is nothing wrong with you asking for help. It's actually the bravest step that you can take. So, with that caveat said, let's jump in to one of the first habits that I often talk about in practice is let's rule out any medical concerns. Megan, we're talking about mental health. Why do I need to rule out medical concerns? Because if you're deficient in some areas, it's actually going to, and it could possibly, I'm not going to say anything straight here, but it could make things worse than better. And therapy within itself shouldn't, have to fight battles that your body could win when you have the right treatment. So, for example, if you're deficient in certain B vitamins, D vitamins, if your thyroid is off, if your iron level's off, if you're having sleep anemia, these are going to impact your overall mental health. And there's tons of other areas in there. So go to your primary care doctor. I know it's a pain in the ass sometimes, but it's really going to help support you rule out any medical concerns that could be impacting your mental health. If you haven't been to a primary care doctor in over a year, please let me be your support person that will say, schedule the damn appointment. It's going to take some time to get in there. You're going to take some time to get the results. You are worth getting those rule outs, especially if you're working on your mental health. Hope that was encouraging. Habit number 2, let's talk about the power of alliance. What is that? The single best predictor for success in therapy. Okay, there's a lot, but research shows us that the relationship that you have between you and your therapist, that the early alliance, the actual therapeutic relationship, sets the tone for long-term outcomes. So if you're not vibing with your therapist, please ask for referral sources and please ask about other modalities. Your therapist should have done, and hopefully have done, the work to be able to support you through if you and your therapist are not vibing. And it's okay. I will often say that in my very first session, that if for whatever reason we don't vibe or you don't like my treatment modalities, I will help guide you and support you through to find a therapist that will be the right fit. And so when you're in your therapy sessions, bring your own agenda, give feedback, ask questions like, what does my progress possibly look at between now and next week when we meet again? It's simple, but it's really powerful because you are in control of your healing and who's supporting you through that. And if you're not sure, please know that we're there to answer those questions. Yes, I can't speak for any therapist, and those of you listening that have not had the best experience with therapy, I am very sorry that that has happened, but know that there's therapists out there that are willing to help support you to this next level, so don't give up. Habit number 3, let's talk about sleep. I know it's something that I'm not even going to say it's a buzz. Maybe it's a buzz. I hope it's a buzz. It needs to be a buzz because sleep is a superpower. We have a very, very difficult time processing emotions, checking in with ourselves, regulating emotions, or even choosing healthy foods or options, getting movement if we are super tired. If you're a new parent or in the thick of something busy in your life, sleep might not be the priority and it might be really difficult for you to get sleep right now. Understandable. With that being said, prioritizing your sleep over things like cleaning or organizing or doing the work. I'm not saying to put all those things on the back burner. I'm sure most of those are priority as well, but it's going to make it more challenging for you to actually be sufficient in those areas if your sleep is lacking. If you're not getting adequate sleep, if you're waking up multiple times a night, if you're having a difficult time and it's taking you hours to fall asleep at night, if you're waking up multiple times a night, these are all things to go to your primary care doctor and start to get some rollout on the medical side, because you're going to have a struggle in therapy if sleep is a struggle for you. Sleep habits and your routine around going to bed should be something to get curious about. If you are staying up and scrolling on TikTok for hours, science shows us that your brain stays active for 2 hours after you put your phone down instead of going into REM sleep. So that buffer is really important for you to get adequate deep sleep to help recovery happen, help processing happen, and all the scientific things. So look at your sleep routine and habits around bedtime. Can you set your environment up for a successful night of sleep? Can you put the phone away before you go to sleep? Can you make sure that you're eating enough so that when you lay down, you don't realize that you're hungry and you haven't nourished your body enough, hydrated your body enough? And then what does your morning routine look like? Can you get bright light the first hour of waking up, not straight going to screen time and getting the artificial light? I'm talking about getting some outside time, getting up in those early hours so that you can get that good bright light that helps with a lot of long-term effects of overall health. So just getting curious with those areas. Highlight number 4, movement is so important for your body. research is starting to come out that movement can actually be an antidepressant. It can help you in areas that some medications are showing that are not as effective as movement is. Some asterisk there as always. Consult your doctor. But if you are stagnant, if you're in a job or an area that you're sitting most of the day, schedule non-negotiable move times for yourself. Brisk walks, just getting outside maybe 3 times a day, even if it is for 10 to 15 minutes during that time, just to help get that heart rate up, help to elevate and get some movement in. Consistency beats intensity when it comes to this area for your mental health. So something over nothing is really, really important. If you feel like I can't dedicate an entire hour, so I'm not going to do anything at all, please check in with that thought process, because even 15 minutes, 10 minutes, a few times a day is actually going to help that habit to increase for more movement. So start small, stick with it, and over time, your brain's really going to thank you, and the patterns are going to amplify when it comes to your overall mood. Highlight number 5, let's talk about food patterns that support your mood. Check in with what you're eating. If there's a ton of ultra-processed foods, your body could be really malnourished when it comes to actually using food as energy and helping your brain and your body process and do all the things that it needs to do throughout the day. Start to get curious with that food. Are you nourishing your body? Are you giving your body the energy input that it needs for the output that you're doing? High stress environments, things like that. For those of you, it's going to be really important to get the nourishment that your mind and your body needs in order to show up for you every single day. So start to get curious on that food. A simple step is to start to swap out some of your packaged foods that are ultra processed and have a ton of ingredients with a bit more simple from earth food, fruits, vegetables, proteins, some really good complex carbs in there, so that you're fueling your body with food that it needs to give that energy output. Highlight number 6, substances that hold you back. These are mood-altering substances I want you to check in with, and we have a plethora of them. But if they alter your mood, and yes, I will talk even about prescription drugs, if you are taking them in a dose that is not prescribed from your doctor, this falls under this category. Because even things, alcohol, cannabis, and overuse of caffeine, these all affect your overall mood and your overall health in time. So cutting back and decreasing on alcohol can improve functioning. Heavy cannabis use is actually linked to more depressive symptoms. And there's a lot of long-term studies that are starting to come out about overall mental health with cannabis use. So get curious. Be open-minded if these are patterns that you tend to go to for coping, and it's hard because I know some things, are even depicted in movies and things like that after a long day, a glass of wine. And so we give a ton of excuses to it, but how do you feel the next day? How's your processing? How's your emotions during that glass of wine? Does that glass of wine turn into 2 or 3 glasses of wine? Are you using that glass of wine every single night, or that whiskey drink, or that beer to help you decompress from your day? If that's utilized as a coping skill, check in with that. Talk to your doctor about how much you're using and be honest about it, because there could be some red flags in how you're handling your emotions throughout the day, and mood-altering substances are going to decrease your ability to manage stress long term. Number 7, last but not least, is the nervous system tools that you can practice in between sessions. Coping skills are one of those things, as I often will say, that, Thankfully, our first responders and our military are out there practicing so often what they need to do in high stress situations or a fire. They're often practicing how to put that out. And coping skills are really important to practice if you want to be able to use them successfully in high stress environments. So, if you're only using the coping skills when you're under the heat of fire, that's oftentimes why they're not working very well, because your brain doesn't know how to access them for the significant use that it can do to calm your nervous system. So, schedule time to practice coping skills, learn tools to help calm your nervous system so that you can respond to situations in better ways. Your nervous system is really the bridge between stress and calm. So, if you think about it that way, things like deep breathing will help decrease your stress and help you process moving into the calm space. You can take, big inhales in, hold it in, and then longer exhales out. I have a ton of these tools and a plethora of guided practices in Mental Summit, but deep breathing, inhale for 4, exhale for 6 to 8 seconds. And a really important way to do this is schedule it on your calendar like it's a non-negotiable meeting for yourself. Take the breaks throughout the day, get the walks in, and maybe 2 minutes at your lunch break before you start lunch. Do some deep breathing so that, your brain knows how to use these tools. In the morning before you get out of bed, during those lunch times, maybe before you go to bed, can be some really great way to start to increase and practice mindfulness throughout the day. And let's add a bonus in there. I want you to think about creating a checklist for yourself to get curious this week. What are some of those areas that stood out to you? And what are some small steps that you can start to implement to help these 7 areas increase your overall health, but also amplify your treatment if you're in therapy, and also maybe help prepare you if you're thinking about going to therapy? And create a game plan, create a checklist for yourself. And here's some action steps. I'll put them in the show notes so that you can copy and paste them. But set one goal for yourself, set a micro goal for yourself. Number 2 is to track your sleep and wake time and your mood throughout the day. Maybe just start with a 1 to 10 format. Today I'm feeling at like a 1, not having much energy. Today I'm feeling at a 10. I feel so great. Track that mood and start to put some words into the emotions there. Number 3 is to schedule your next 2 movement sessions now. If right now it's 4 o'clock, by 6 o'clock before I go into my next meeting, I am going to walk outside for 10 minutes. Number 4 is to check in with what you're eating. Get curious and implement 1 or 2 meals, if you're not already, with some vegetables, with some fruit, with some whole grains, with some proteins, and pepper that in throughout your day. And I think we're on number 5. I lost count. Do 2 minutes of slow breathing. Schedule it for yourself before you go to bed tonight. Maybe even get curious about a YouTube video or hop into Mental Summit and I can guide you through with some deep breathing exercises or some tapping or some central nervous system regulation tools. And get some sunlight. If it's already late in the evening, schedule it for tomorrow, maybe earlier in the morning. Give yourself 5 minutes extra to wake up so that you can get outside and get some sunlight before you start your day. Do this. Maybe even bring this check-in with yourself to your therapist for some accountability. And I hope that if anything stood out today, it can help motivate you to take some control in some areas that you have control over, to amplify your therapy sessions, amplify your overall mental health, and start to take those small steps for your overall well-being. And your future self is going to thank you so much. If anything stood out today, leave a comment, share it with your friends. And If you're in need of more help, don't forget that there's always help out there. In the US is 988. Just dial it on your phone, and there's a plethora of therapists in your area willing to support you through your path. So never feel like you have to do this on your own. Just a reminder as we close out that therapy changes the brain, but only if your work supports it. So have a beautiful week. Pick one or two of these 7 habits or tips, or if there's anything else that helped you during your therapy journey or your mental health journey, um, please put those in the comments and let us know what I've missed. I've tried to keep this short and sweet for you guys. I could probably stay on this rant forever, but I'll close it out, and I hope you have a beautiful day, beautiful morning, and a beautiful week. Thank you for being here.